Here we go. It's the Michael Batson Show on YouTube and TikTok. Thanks for joining us. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Everything and anything helps. We have a friend of the show. We'll call him now. He's been on 4 or 5 times. Texans Insider, Houston radio host Sean Pendergast stops by. Sean, how are you doing? We haven't spoken in a few months.
I'm doing great, Michael. Yeah, that's kind of the barometer. Like friend of the show.
Yeah.
I would say 3 times.
3 times.
Once you're on a show 3 times within a certain period of time, you're a friend of the show. So I am a friend of this show. Yes.
Yeah. We don't have many friend of the shows. We have a few, but I think you're the biggest friend of the show so far. You know, we're kind of getting these things running. So yeah.
I like it.
So CJ Stroud comes into year 2 now. And I think he's, I said this a few weeks ago. I said, if this was 3 years ago and Stroud came into NFL, you'd have Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. Now all the great quarterbacks are 28, 29, 30. Stroud is probably the best younger quarterback. So how could he build on year 1? And what's the next step? Because he's not Josh Allen right now. He's not Patrick Mahomes right now. But what's the next step for him to becoming that guy?
Yeah, I think, look, he's not those guys yet, but he's in the neighborhood.
Definitely.
After his first year, he's in the neighborhood. So I think there's a few things I think CJ probably needs to improve upon in year 2, and keeping in mind that he did some historic things in his rookie year. But I think he would even say that there's a next level of quarterbacking, like from a processing and a chess game standpoint that he needs to get to. Like last year was QB 101, and now it's QB 201, and I think he would look at probably making sure that he's getting the team into the right plays. The team didn't run the football very well last year. Some of that may have had to do with the fact that they had a rookie quarterback who was going through his first year of trying to diagnose what a defense is doing and planning for. I think one of the games he missed, CJ, in his rookie year with the concussion, was that Tennessee game where Case Keenum came in and got a win for the Texans in his place. In that game, they ran the ball really well, and after the game, several people on the Texans said a lot of it had to do with the fact that Case has been in the league for a decade, and he was getting the Texans into the right plays, getting them into the right running plays specifically. So I think that's one area for CJ that he himself has said throughout this offseason that he's just looking to get smarter. He's looking to, and he's already really smart, but he's looking to be able to diagnose defenses at the line of scrimmage. And even if it's not a wow passing play he's checking into, he wants to check into the right play. So that's number 1. I would say number 2, and this isn't just CJ, this is more of a team thing, but they've got to be better in the red zone.
Yep.
They've got to score more points. They make it to the red zone a lot, but they were middle of the pack in terms of converting the trips into the red zone into touchdowns. So when you consider their schedule this year and the huge step up in competition that they're playing against way more top quarterbacks this year. They're going to find themselves in way more games where they're going to need 30 points to win a game. I think those are the 2 biggest things.
So the Texans add Stefon Diggs. We were talking off the record maybe a month ago. I was in Europe, and we were talking about Stefon Diggs and how his whole perception of how he's a diva and how there was a fallout in Buffalo. That's not true, and you're saying there's a really good connection there in Houston already between him and Stroud.
Yeah, really good connection, not just with CJ, but I would say with the other receivers in that room and his teammates in general. Diggs, that was one of the things that I was taken aback by in camp, even though you had heard people in Buffalo say that early on, Diggs was great. It was just really the last year or so where things kind of soured. But he was going out of his way to work with some of the other receivers. He was going out of his way to work with defensive backs after practice, giving them little tips on things. I mean, you can't separate Tank Dell from Stefon Diggs. He's practically attached to his hip. He follows him around like a little brother. So that's good. So Diggs has shown extreme leadership qualities. DeMeco Ryans loves him, like absolutely loves him. And he's got a real connection with CJ. They've been working out in California together prior to training camp. And on top of all that, it's not just the leadership stuff. He was their best offensive player throughout training camp. Stefon Diggs was. He was open all the time.
Yeah.
Against some pretty good defensive backs. The Texans, he had one-on-ones that he was winning against Derek Stingley Jr., who had an awesome camp himself. He was probably their best defensive player in camp, Stingley Jr. So those Diggs versus Stingley reps in one-on-ones were must-see TV. So Diggs has been great. I don't think that's looking at it through Texans colored glasses. I've been at every single practice other than the 3 practices they had in Ohio, and I was at all the the preseason games and things like that, all the press conferences. So far, the Diggs trade, and now they haven't played a single game in the regular season yet, but so far so good.
What is the next step for Tank Dell? He now has a mentor of sorts coming in to another year with Stroud. What's the next step he could take?
I would say, well, first he's got to stay healthy. That's number one. He broke his leg last year because he decided that he was, instead of being 5'8", 160 or whatever he is, he thought he was 6'4", 220, and he ran into a crowd to block on a goal line run play.
That's Nico's job.
Yeah, right, Nico. You're right. It's anybody but Tank's job. So he's got to stay healthy for one. He is really he's a freak. Tank Dell is. Like, if you watch his highlight, like his ability to get open, his wiggle, his twitch, whatever word it is you want to use for it. Tank Dell can be a Pro Bowl wide receiver. There's no question about it. When he got hurt last year, he was on pace to have the same season that Nico Collins wound up having, if not better. Tank only played in I think like 9 games maybe total. Like I think on paper he played in 11 games, but he got knocked out early in the game. He broke his leg. He got knocked out early in a game where he was concussed and then missed another game. So he had 700 yards and 7 touchdowns in basically half a season last year. He's remarkable. So I think health and I think what all these, especially the top 3 receivers, are going to need to realize is that just because of all the mouths to feed, none of them are probably going to have the maximum season that they're capable of having statistically if they were the number 1 guy on a team. It's probably more where the 3 of them all settle in, if they're all healthy, settle in around 1,100 yards or so, each with maybe 6 or 7 touchdowns, rather than, for example, Nico last year played 14 games and he had 1,300 yards and 80 catches. I don't know that he's going to do that again this year.